welcome back to Let's Talk About That. Today we have Heidi and Bridget with Work-Based Learning in Northridge. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
Well,
We're happy to be
you.
here. Thank you.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the program. Like, what is the work-based program with Indiana?
So work-based learning at Northridge High School, it is a regular high school class. Mm-hmm. The difference is the students are doing their learning outside of the building. So they are typically out either mornings or afternoons every day. We do have some kids who can arrange their schedule to be out every other day. And they are working for an employer in the community. So all of our business partners who are willing to take on student workers, they earn 3 credits for it. So it is a state-approved high school class. And actually the state is trending toward wanting more and more of that so that students are getting that real-world experience on top of whatever they're learning in the classroom.
So is that something you guys are seeing more students kind of shifting to do more of the work-based learning?
Yes, we have been doing this program for 4 or 5 years, and the student interest has grown exponentially. We allow our juniors and seniors to be out of the building working half a day or a full day every other day. It's really wonderful for students because it will, they make their post-secondary plans. Mm-hmm. We ask them, what do you want to do when you're 40? Which sounds like a lifetime away for them.
That's a long time.
I know.
Whoa.
Right. And then our ideal goal is to help place them in a position that leads to their career path. Mm-hmm. And so we do a lot of career counseling and meeting with them and giving assessments to them to find out what are their strengths and interests and their skill set. And then we try to place them in a position that leads to their interests. And sometimes those positions really confirm to a student, this is exactly what I want to do. And sometimes the students come back to us and say, I really thought I wanted to do that. And now after, a semester, it's really confirmed to me that whatever industry is not for me. And we really think that that is as valuable to know what you don't want to do as it is to find out what you do want to do before they spend time and money pursuing a post-secondary degree or training. Mm-hmm.
So that's, I would say that will lead to a lot of perspective on if they think that it's something they really want to go into and they kind of go through, it's almost like an internship, basically. You're going into like an internship program where you are able to dive deep into the atmosphere, not just the work, but the people and the cultures and the ecosystem, and be able to kind of understand if this is something that I love or hate and try. And some students they may not go to college. Some do go to college, but just depending on what, like a trade, because trades are equally as well too.
Sure, exactly.
Because that's a big deal nowadays that our students, as they come into the world, they know how to do stuff like in the world,
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
Right. Yeah. So our program is really for any student in our building. So we do have those students who are planning to go to college, but they've, the way our master schedule works, students have available time in their junior and senior years to do, whether it's going more in depth in the music in the building or maybe at art or to do something like going out to work. But we also, the students who are interested in going directly in the workforce. And those students particularly, like you mentioned, the trades, that's a growing area for our students as we make more contacts. None of this would work without our business partners. And we have many of them and we're constantly looking for more. So it's a great way to get extra help. I mean, during COVID, when the labor shortage was so great, our students were in jobs making ridiculous amounts of money because, and even now the majority of our students are doing adult jobs in an adult workplace, bank tellers, working in accounting,
engineering,
marketing,
video production,
healthcare,
right?
Healthcare.
Healthcare. It's a very broad range, and it doesn't matter what their end goal is after high school. It's giving them information to prepare themselves, to be a better person when they leave high school.
Do you feel it gives them kind of a head start, kind of even going into college if they choose like a specific major?
Yes.
Because they've already kind of experienced
right.
kind of what it's like
exactly.
to get their hands on some of the activities that happen within the businesses.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
For example, we had an apprentice who was at ChemCrest working in logistics, doing projects, and I was always amazed. I'd say, show me what you're doing. And he would pull up all of his spreadsheets and start speaking in a language that I didn't necessarily understand. And then he went away to college to pursue a degree in logistics. And we would just chat about, when you're sitting in class on that campus and the professor is speaking about this world to the other students, it'll be theory, because they've not lived it yet, but it will be so relevant to him because he already had that background. We do have students too, thinking about him, who would work remotely. Sometimes our students work remotely for their companies when they go away to college. We have an accounting student who is doing that now, pursuing accounting in another city on a campus, but the employer
still working
has retained him to do accounting work
That's
remotely.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's actually gives you kind of a really bleeding edge head start, because you, as a student, you still can have a job while you're in school.
Yes,
absolutely.
And do it remotely. That's a really good position.
And a lot of our employers will offer for those students who are going away to school, the idea to come back in the summer,
right,
full time. Some of them offer them money to go to college, like to help scholarship programs. So there is a lot of benefit. And I think we have a lot of stories that we love to tell. I think we had a young man who took engineering classes, and he wanted to be an engineer, particularly, I think, a civil engineer. And he got a job working with a builder. That was kind of the closest we could get, like the transportation departments doing all our road work on 20. Like, he was too young to be able to join them. And he wasn't getting enough hours with the builder, so he volunteered at Stable Grounds, which is our mental health, like therapeutic miniature horse program that we have on campus. And by the end of the semester, he changed his mind, and he's going into school counseling.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting.
Just kids could take a major shift, and they find their passion before they start spending money, which is just a great thing.
So it's basically getting exposure to things that you may not ever really, because that's how life works, right? We kind of are defined by the experiences that we have. We get exposed to certain things, and you don't know what you love until you get exposed to it, right? So this kind of gives them an opportunity, and sometimes it shifts, right? So certain things happen that make you want to decide to go a different path. So do you see a lot of that, especially like say in counseling? A lot of students may not really know exactly what their path is. They know they may be good at something. How do you guys work with students like that to kind of cultivate the skills, and what direction to kind of guide them to go towards? So
in the career counseling part of it, we spend a lot of time with them and just ask a lot of questions about what their interests are, what gives them joy. There are standard questions. When you look to your future, do you want to sit at a desk? Do you want to be outside? Do you want to work with your hands? Do you want to work with people? Do you want to work alone? Do you have a strong desire to help people? The list goes on and on. And then there are formal assessments that the students can take that give us data that is then linked to career options that match who they are. and sometimes we can offer up career ideas and go, let's do some research about some of these careers that students maybe haven't heard of or haven't thought of. I think my idea of what careers are available in the world today is so much broader than when I was 18, right? I mean, not only have careers changed, but even just at 18, knowledge is limited.
And everything is evolving. There are so many new careers kind of, especially right now.
Yes.
There's like careers transforming that you never thought before.
Yes.
Like who would have thought a social media manager would be a position back in the day, right? Like, wow, we thought that's casual.
Yeah.
But
so, something that's common among any position that students take is just learning what it means to be a worker, an employee, show up on time, be there every day, be 100% present in your job. And so even those skills, regardless of what they do when they leave high school, that is just helping them, whether they're going into the workforce, going into the military, going to college, the idea that those attributes are important.
So if you kind of go back to this is not just for kids, this is for adults as well. So if you're listening, this is someone that's looking for their next path and how they would get submerged into the real world. These are the skills that you guys are teaching now that can really help adults later on to help kind of decide where they want to go and providing awareness of what they like and what they don't like, right?
We actually teach a class at Northridge that we run all of our students through that's called Preparing for College and Careers. And in that class, it's a lot of career counseling and assessments and looking at what careers might fit me as a student, and then looking and researching what is the path that I need to get to that career. What kind of training? Do I need a trade school or an apprenticeship or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree? But to what you're saying, we have had so many parents who come to us and say, when we have our parent-teacher conferences, I love this class for my child. I wish I would have had this class.
Right. Self-awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like looking within and saying, like, is this right for me?
Right.
Is this right for me? Yeah. And that's ongoing as they go out into the world. These are foundational skills.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, it's more than just the work base. You're kind of preparing them for the world. So when they leave the program, they're able to adjust. And it's okay to have a path where you may be doing a work-based program and you say, I love this now. Later on, you may not. You may, but like being aware of what you like is equally important, right? So knowing that if you need to pivot, try something else. And this program really gives the opportunity to kind of dive in and experiment, because we wish when we were younger, we could experiment as much as possible. And this is the gateway, right?
Right. A nice thing that we can offer students too is, we can career counsel them, look at them, and make suggestions because we have business connections. And for instance, a student may be interested in engineering, but they're not really sure. We have partners that we work with. And we can say, do you know what? Let's just send you for a day to job shadow.
Okay.
Go visit our student who works at that site. See what they do. And then that will tell you if you're interested or not interested. Or we contact employers and say, would you be interested in having a student job shadow? And we recently had a student who we connected with an employer, and the employer was not ready to take a student in the work-based learning program, which we really understand. And we were grateful that the employer said, you know what, we will take that student for a job shadow. After they met our student,
they said, come on aboard.
They said, we will hire him, not unpaid, not an internship, but we will take the student and hire him. And then when we went to visit, the employer said, do you know what? We've told the student they don't need to go to college. We'll train them. But if he wants to go to college, we'll take him after he graduates. Like we have a job for him.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's that look like with trying to gather partners? How did you guys work on building that type of network?
So there was some network when we started. We took it over, and it was a much smaller program. A lot of times a group of students will get jobs because they have a connection through their family. It's a family's business, or somebody in their family works there. And that always opens the door to, would you consider a student next year? So we build it. That's one way of just using our students' connections. We can build a relationship with those employers, and then the subsequent years, encourage them to try, have another student come. Some we've built up because they're just bigger employers in our area, and they've partnered with our school on other things. And so then doing work-based learning is a natural extra. And then do you want to talk about just cold calling?
Yeah, sometimes we just drop in.
Okay.
Shake some hands. Here's our business card. And we cold call. And employers have been wonderful. I think what is beneficial to employers too is that we tell them we want it to be a win for you. We don't want you to take a student as a charity case. We really want it to be a win, and our students really contribute to the workforce and the productivity of the companies that they work for. We often hear your students are better than our adult employees. We hear that a lot.
Well, it's a little bit different, right? You're preparing them in different ways.
Yes.
Right.
So
we're
coaching them for the future.
Right.
And we always look at sometimes as adults, we've gained bad habits over the years that we've just, life can change you sometimes. So the students are kind of new and fresh to the world and open-minded.
Yes.
Right?
And they don't come in with preconceived ideas
of how things work.
Yes.
Right?
They don't know. Yeah.
They're
so they're
you
more
mentioned,
teachable.
Coachable. Yeah. Teachable, coachable. They're willing to be mentored. And especially if there's something like you mentioned before, passion, because that's a very key point in all of this is finding out what you're passionate about. Right. So, so let's get into like the daily operations. A lot of it, I know you're cold calling. You mentioned there's student management, so you have all the students that are in the program. You have managing all the employers. You have the documentation that needs to be provided and verifying it. What's that look like? What type of staffing and resources does it take to operate something like that?
So a lot of what we do on a daily basis is really driven by the state standards and the state requirements. So students have to work a minimum, again, of 15 hours to earn their 3 credits each semester. And there's required paperwork. So in the beginning, when a student is interested, maybe in the spring for the following year, there's an application and some other paperwork. Eventually, when they have a job, there's a document called a training plan, where it's an agreement between us and the students' parents, or whoever is there at home with, and then the employer. Kind of what are the expectations? What can everyone expect from each other? And then talking about the learning objectives for the student. And some of them, again, are those general work-ready employability skills. Others are more specific to what job are they doing that the employer and the student have to work out. And then we go and visit them at least once a semester, sometimes more often. The employer does evaluations once or twice a semester. And then the students every 2 weeks turn in a timesheet. So keeping track of their hours, like we have several spreadsheets. It kind of is a paper machine right now. Like we're looking to the future of maybe somehow digitizing some of it because it is a lot of paper. But so those are all just the very structural things that we do. And that we just fit in between working with the students. I would say 90% of the time there's students in our room. Like we don't have a regular classroom full of students, throughout the day, but it is kind of a revolving door of students coming in either for advice. Maybe they're in a job. We just had one where the girl was let go unexpectedly. So she needed to process that because she didn't understand
the impact of it. Like, not just like
what she had really done wrong.
Okay.
She felt like she was doing a good job. So and then it was like, okay, what's your next step? You need another job. Let's look at some alternatives. That was, you probably talked to her a good 45 minutes to an hour.
So heavy, like you have a lot of counseling.
A lot of
counseling and direction. So it's not as much as paperwork logistics. It's more for being there for the student and helping navigate which directions to take.
I mean, it's both, but the paperwork kind of just gets fit in.
It's a part of the process.
Whenever there's a few minutes of spare time, you just keep, that's always kind of being done.
So you basically have a success contract that you make across between everyone that's involved for accountability, right? So then the parents are equally they're involved in there too because they need to see what their student is doing. Well,
and it could be as simple as, maybe something happens. Usually we require students to have their own transportation. There's been a few exceptions where we help them out with that in some way. But, if their car breaks down, the parents will still get them to work, that type of a thing.
Because it's taken seriously. It's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah, this isn't just play around extracurricular. This is a job. You're putting them into the real world. They get credits as if they were working a job.
And they earn paychecks.
And they earn paychecks.
For the most part, they earn paychecks.
And
that's right.
We tell our employers, treat our students like your regular employees. They are to follow all of the company policies, all of the attendance policies. Treat them like you would any other employee. Because again, we want it to be a win for you. So if you have a point system, our students follow the point system.
So are there any other, do you have any other systems that you guys use or processes you use that to make sure everything flows smoothly? So for certain situations that may occur, say like a student lost their job, do you guys have processes or is it just organic? Do you kind of go with the flow? And
I would say every situation is an individual situation. I think our philosophy would be that we want our students to step up and be the adult in a situation. So if there's communication that needs to take place at work, our first thing is, have you talked to your boss about that? Have you gone to them? Have you had those conversations? And really try to encourage them that they are the ones that need to handle it. And this is what professionalism requires. And then if our input is needed, if we need to be that liaison, we are willing to do that. And we tell employers too, if you need us, we're here. We don't want to get in your way though. So if you deal directly with the student, and if you need extra support, we're here. But we don't want to interfere if you don't want us to.
So you do a lot of redirection to make sure they're taking ownership of their own responsibilities.
Yes.
So that's a pretty powerful skill. That's something that, like you mentioned, I wish some of my other employees, would take that. That's why you're hearing that is that happens a lot in the workplace. Maybe it's confidence to be able to speak your mind or be able to speak of whatever issues. So you're teaching them to kind of handle their own situations as they arise. Right. So I see all that. It's more than just experience. These are life skills that I'm seeing that really, I know I keep bringing that out, but it's big. I see it.
Well, there are employability skills that are transferable to any job or career, regardless of what you do. Are you humble? Are you teachable? Are you punctual? Do you show up early? Do you stay busy the whole time? Are you productive every moment you're on the clock? Are you part of a team? Are you collaborating with the people around you? So we teach employability skills. We just preach that. because regardless of what you do, those are the skills that you need. And we want employers too to know that that's our philosophy and our mindset. So when we say we want this to be a win for you, here's why.
So I remember back, say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we had interns that came straight out of like interns that were like last years of college or new grads. And without like a program like this, one of the things that was key is there was no experience. So they had degrees. They knew the theory. So whether they were developers or they were in marketing, they had the theory concept, but they had no real world experience. And it was very, very challenging from when you go to school and you learn the theory of how to apply your skill set to the world and actually coming out into the real world and utilizing it. Those are like two different things. So like as I tell everybody, even at our company, you know, say, hey, should we take a class on that? No, you should try it first. Get your hands on it, see how hard it is, or be familiar. So like when you've seen something or experienced it, when you go to school to expand and apply your knowledge to it, you are further along. So the experience is equal. I think it's the same. Well, it's a part of the process because you have to kind of experience it and then expand on it at the same time to master it, right? So, and I think like as for students coming out of even college, going through college, if they're intentional about like, I really love doing this, and I remember experiencing this as a junior in high school. Think about how advanced they are once they actually start learning how to master the skills. So instead of just starting, you're starting like to actually master when you're first going into school. So you know, Kobe, like he's already video editing. Like, and just think about like later on, if he decides to continue to go deeper into that, he's got years of experience when he's going to school and filling in the gaps. That's what you're learning. It's filling in the gaps because you already know what you're doing. It's about techniques, filling in the gaps. And, you know, as I said, like experience sometimes is more powerful than anything else. So, you know, Kobe's going out on site. He's actually going to shoots. He's interacting with people. He's seeing what the business looks like to do, say, video production in his space. But then also outside of that, interacting with marketing. And saying like, okay, well, we'll have the content. Now what do we do with it? How does it get distributed? Who's the audience? Who are we giving this content to? You know, all those questions are not just about video editing and what he's doing. It's about solving a problem for someone. So it's problem solving. You're getting exposed to situations. This is within the whole program. You're going out to do a job. You're discovering all of the problems that they have, and you're learning because you've seen them. And now that enhances your problem solving tool belt because you've seen it and you've dealt with the situation. So how would a student, like if they're not in the program right now, what would the first thing you would advise them, and what type of value would you see they would have by like being a part of this program, even if they're not a junior yet, say they're a freshman or a sophomore?
So we encourage when our counseling department meets with even 8th graders and starting to look at their high school plan, is that they have to be intentional about the courses they're taking and what they're doing with their schedule to know that they have the space for work-based learning. Or, I mean, our school also has like the Career Center is an option for juniors and seniors. So there's other off-campus opportunities, but you have to be prepared. You have to pass all your classes so you have the credits necessary to free up your time to do these other experiences. That's always the first key.
Now, do they have to maintain still their GPA and grades even when they're in the work-based program? So, because they're still taking classes, right?
Right, they're taking
the other half.
Right.
They have to maintain. Do they have to maintain a certain level of GPA or anything like that?
We don't particularly have that requirement because what their work is considered a class.
Experience credits.
And they get
an online portion.
Yeah, there's an online portion, some academic thing. Again, the just the workplace skills. Like after the first of the year, they'll practice doing a tax return.
Oh, okay.
Just all things that kind of relate to having a job. So there's an academic piece. Then they have to turn in their timesheets to verify their employment. All of those things add into their grade for that. Now, I would say if we notice that we have students in work-based learning who are struggling in their other classes, we'll address that, but it's not a reason to kick them out of the program.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious because, with a lot of other programs, sometimes in sports and others, you have to maintain a certain level.
Yeah, so it's not considered extracurricular. It's part of the curriculum.
Correct. Right. This is life.
Mm-hmm.
These are life credits that you're getting.
Yeah.
Okay. So
after that, I think it just, there's, as they reach their sophomore year and they hear about scheduling for their junior year, again, the opportunities are presented that, you can do work-based learning. We have an application process, which
we start in about February.
So kids can say what their intent is. They work with our counselor to make sure that they can either have mornings or afternoons off. Again, we have some students do every other day.
So we start in the spring, working with those students who will come into our program in August. So they fill out a survey for us that tells us, are they morning or afternoon workers? What are their career goals? We give them a list of career clusters, different industries to choose from, what interests you. And then we try to connect with them during March, April, and May to see if we can help with a placement for them before the start of the school year.
So do you do this in conjunction with any college prep or so sometimes there's advanced college prep type classes that students they take those to prepare themselves for college. And then this would be another component where they can get exposed to the actual career path in conjunction with it. Do you see a lot of that?
So again, it goes with a lot of different students. So some students are in, very straight college prep programs, but then we also in our career and technical education programs, we have many different, they're now called next level programs of study. So there's an engineering one, there's a CAD one, there's a advanced manufacturing one, there's several business pathways, several science pathways. And the goal of work-based learning really is that students have taken some of these advanced classes and then they're placed in something that relates to that. In a perfect world, everybody would be there.
That's what I was curious about.
It's not as perfect as we would like it, but we try pretty hard. If a student has taken those advanced classes, gives them a little bit extra to offer those employers. It just is a matter of if somebody was interested, I don't know, marine biology, we might be limited in what they could do directly with marine biology.
Around marine, a lot of marine life,
But we can find something similar.
And if an employer contacts us and says, we have an IT position, we have had a couple of IT apprentices who were in formal DOL registered apprenticeships. And we have computer science at school. So we can go to those teachers and thinking of one student in particular who is at Purdue now studying computer science, went to the teacher and said, hey, we have this apprenticeship. So who do you have in your program that is really excelling and you could see would do a nice job? And we received the name and met with the student. And she was a rock star. And she comes back from college and works for the employer still.
So do you have some of the businesses? Because I can see this is really valuable as they're looking at the succession of their company, just because you have to be thinking about that. Do you have some of your companies come in and they say, hey, I'm looking for a student that fits this model. And you have a list of, as you're kind of vetting through some of the students for the program, you pretty much have some of the matches already. And vice versa, it goes both ways, right? The student and then the employer. If you have employers say, hey, I'm really looking for students that know about this specific space. And is that something that you see a lot of where you kind of have pre-list of like already authorized positions that your companies, your business partners are looking for the program?
So we actually in the past few years have had several partners who have made a commitment that they will do X number of positions. And in some cases, like regardless of the economy, like they'll say that we'll take these students, here's the bare minimum we'll do, but we will do it every year. And that really helps as those students are coming in to talk to us, that we can say, hey, these companies are looking for.
And you know how many slots you have too.
Right.
You know how many students you can take with certain companies.
And then there's other places businesses that we're usually certain that they will, but they haven't made like a real commitment to us. But their actions every year, they're very supportive.
And is that sometimes aligning the fit for what the businesses need actually too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we ask businesses, what are you looking for in a
where
student?
do you need help?
Yes, and they may say, sometimes they'll say, we understand if that student wants to go to college and we'll take them for 1 or 2 years. That's fine. And then we have some employers who know, I'm building my labor pipeline. I want to train them their junior and senior year because I want them to stay.
Yeah.
So they're investing in the students.
Right.
Investing, yes.
And again, we want it to be a win for the employer. So we really try to make a good match, and we really try to screen our students and ask the important, vital questions that an employer would like to know before we ever make a match with an employer, because we really guard and protect our employer relationships. So we want to make sure that we are sending them somebody who will be a good fit for them.
So do you ever ask this question? What do you hate doing?
Oh, to ask the student?
Ask the student, what do you dislike the most doing? That was actually one of our powerful interview questions.
Oh, that's a good question.
What do you dislike doing? And usually it breaks people because in an interview, no one knows how to answer that.
Yes.
And because you don't want to look bad. And actually, it's a pretty critical question because when you're pairing up someone with the right position, you don't want them doing something they hate doing.
Right.
It's pretty powerful. So you guys ever ask that question or actually get that out of any students sometimes?
I think when we ask those career questions, do you see yourself doing any of these different things, whether it's working alone or outside or with people continuously or with your hands? Students sometimes will say, are you interested in helping others? Do you want to work with children? And
no, thank you.
Well, and then some may,
They do, We've got great business partners.
Those become the educators of the world too,
Right.
You find them, they're there, they're nurturers.
Yeah,
they're there.
We have plenty of those.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked about these students yet, but we have a lot of students in healthcare.
Okay.
And when you spoke earlier about getting that experience so that you have a knowledge base when you go to college, that then you're filling in the gaps. So when you're sitting in those college classes, that course content is really relevant to your life. Our students who work in nursing, they either work as non-certified nursing assistants or certified nursing assistants. Our business partners have been great, and those positions really confirm to our students if nursing is for them. And some of our partners too offer great tuition reimbursement or help with tuition for nurses.
And possibly certifications, because you can get those early in.
Yes,
stackable.
CPR and I know there's ones that they're really not age specific that you still can get certifications for, and that's a head start, right? Especially going into that space.
Right.
My son is he's going through an EMT course right now.
Oh, yeah.
So he's he's graduated, but he decided to go that path, and it's really interesting how you go into that space once you get exposed to it. You may have not really ever thought about doing it until you actually do it.
Right.
And then, you figure like now paramedic or like you keep going and further because we may not know anything about what the paths are until you actually get into that atmosphere,
Right.
and you're able to see more, right?
Right.
So in healthcare is a huge space where there's a lot of help needed, and I think especially like over COVID, like it just wore out our healthcare staff, like the professionals out there, and right now it's really good to get into that program where, you know, again, not burn up yet. They're able to kind of say like everything kind of the dust is settled a little bit. I know the world is a little bit strange now, but they're able to kind of get exposed to like how in healthcare is really vast, right? There's a lot of spaces.
Right.
So you have like not just the hospitals, but like
nursing
facilities, nursing homes. There's mental health care facilities. Do you get are any students into that space? Because that one's kind of
that one's kind of
tricky. A hard one. Yeah,
we had one student who did an apprenticeship with a mental health facility, and that was a really great experience. It's hard to place students because of the privacy laws.
Yeah, that one's very complex because that's kind of a hush area. A lot of and also even for someone, say especially a student that is still discovering themselves. You know, like mental health is a tough one. So so you're touching a lot of different spaces. Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I would just tell you this is a great story. We have employers who need our students because they need the labor help. We have employers who want our students because they want to develop them as individuals, or they want to give back to the community and they want to pour into the students because they know it's valuable before they go to college to figure out what they want to do. There is a local attorney who is a delight. And we had a student a few years ago who said, I want to be a lawyer. So we contacted this attorney, and she said, I'll take the student. There are two positions. There's one that's paid and the student can do clerical work, or there's one that's unpaid, and I will really let him see what it means to be an attorney. So the student took the unpaid position, and this attorney had our student reading depositions, writing papers, watching trials, and engaging in really deep conversation about law. By the time our student was finished with this placement, he really knew, I want to do this type of law, not that type of law. This attorney continues to be a mentor to him.
Mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Well, and you have to be the right student for that.
Yes.
Right. You have to be prepared.
Driven.
Driven to do that. That's so awesome. So, okay. So as I know, as we wrap up here, what could you, because I know, what are some of the needs that I would say your program is looking for right now?
So I think one thing we're always looking for is to increase our employer base, because not every employer on our list has a student every year, because the interests of the students change. And I think the idea of finding more employers who are willing to let us contact them saying, hey, do you have availability to take a student this year? Usually a lot of new employers that we talk to, they just aren't confident in what high school, they think of, what can a 16 or 17-year-old do for me?
You'd be surprised.
You would be surprised. We are, I think, amazed like every time we go to visit. First, two things. One is to find, I came from a manufacturing background, and just to find all the diversity of businesses in Elkhart County. And I just say the hidden gems, like, places that I had no idea existed in the county, and to see the neat things that they're doing in a wide variety of businesses. But the idea that students are just doing amazing work in all fields. Like, it just blows us away every time we visit kids. And so I think the idea, we often have had, an employer will say, I don't think that'll work for us. And we'll say, are you willing to talk to, this company down the road from you, they have 3 students doing the exact work you're looking for.
That's motivation.
Partnering them up, just the idea that, like, given the chance, students just do amazing things. And this is an example, I think, from an outsider. It's a student that works at a local grocery store. And usually those students start out, they stock shelves and, unload the truck. And, well, he's been promoted to the frozen food manager as a high school student. So he does all of the inventory control, the ordering.
Working with people.
Works, helping customers. And it's just, so even in, it's not a high power job, but we need grocery stores and we need good people working in our grocery stores. So the idea that students can go into those types of jobs, be very successful, add value to our community in that way, is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And our student who ended up running the engineering department at a local company.
Oh, really?
Lost to the other engineer in the department, and then he trained the 50-year-old replacement.
Wow.
And for a time, our student was the only one.
The engineering department.
And designed a
that's in production now.
That's
it's
impressive.
being used across the country.
As you're looking at this program, businesses out there, you really need to consider what you actually need in your business, what you're missing. So it's not, the program isn't saying, hey, we need you to take these students and train them or watch them or just shadowing. This is, we're placing the students in your position, in your company, to help you grow and scale and help maybe fill some of the gaps that the skill sets that you may not have in your company. You may not have the people there, and depending on whether it's marketing, like these kids in marketing, they know what's going on in their world because they are the future. They will become the buyer, the consumers in the future. They know themselves. They know who they are. So really consider succession. Like, what's your business look like in the future?
I would encourage an employer, if they are considering taking a student at all, I would say, give us a chance.
Yeah.
Just contact us. Let's have a conversation. We go and have a lot of business meetings with employers just to present what we can offer. They tell us what their needs are. I would say take a chance, because when we send a student to an interview, that employer is not committed in any way. Again, our students are regular employees. So if an employer meets with them and says after the interview or after 2 weeks, this isn't a great fit, we totally understand.
Okay, so there's not a strict obligation of, like, you get what you get. You're not going to say that. That's not going to. It's an interview.
Yes.
You're going to say, I really want to bring this person into my company to learn about our culture and what we do.
Right. It's a great tool. I think a lot of our partners view it as encouraging talent to stay local. To, they might go away to school or to trade school, but that they come back to Elkhart County. And maybe they don't necessarily come back to your company, but they're staying in this area and helping this area stay prosperous. I have 5 children, and not one of them lives in this county. We moved here when they were all in school, so I didn't grow up here. And I look at all the places that they could work. Oh. But we didn't know that at the time. We weren't aware of it. They didn't do work-based learning to find out. And so, none of them came back to Elkhart County.
And it's also a way for the students to get exposed, so the companies know who they are.
Exactly.
They get your name out there, because they don't get that opportunity a lot of the time.
Right.
You go out and then you try to come in and try to figure out, try to have everyone know who you are. And as a transplant, you know how that's difficult.
You
when you come into a new area, you don't have the connections. So it's important to get those connections right now while you have the opportunity, whether you go to school or stay in the area. It's necessary in order to survive in this space. Okay, so for businesses out there, for them to get involved, what is the next step of how to reach out to you guys, and how would you like it done?
I would say they can just call us. So I would say if an employer is interested in our program, even if they're just curious, because we can have a lot of dialogue, and that's not a commitment on an employer's part. Just contact us at Northridge High School. We will come and visit you, tell you what we can offer. We'll look at your company. We really, again, want it to be a win for the employer. So,
and about planning. So when should they be doing this? Because I know there has to be a cutoff time to get ahead of the schedule.
Yes.
Don't wait too late, because there's time frame.
Right. No time like the present.
Right.
Like we do this year round. If as an employer says, okay, I can't swing it this academic school year, but I'm looking ahead to June, I would take somebody and train them over the summer and then hope to keep them in the next school year. I would say contact us now. Contact us in January, February, because we start placing those students in the spring for that next school year.
That's good information.
We sometimes will have employers, we start school in early August, and we expect students to be working at that point.
Okay.
In their position. So somebody who calls us September 1st might think, oh, it's early in the school year.
No, for the next year.
At that point, we have, we might still have a few students, but it's not like, well, we can look at all these students and find really the best fit. Sometimes it works out that there's somebody still hanging out looking for a job, or they've taken a job and are willing to switch. Maybe they start out with just what their part-time job is, maybe fast food. We always say, take the opportunity. You can always do that in the evenings. Let's find a job that really will help you explore options for your adult life.
That's fantastic.
But if employers, contacting us in spring or even this time of year for second semester students, that works out. Right.
And so there is different windows, right? So it's not for the full year. You mentioned different semesters. So, but like it's still better to, right now, actually, if you're looking at September, it's a little bit too late to start planning for your next year, potentially, right? So these are the skills I'm going to need next year. A lot of companies plan end of year. Like, what type of resources are we going to need for 2024? They need to be getting a hold of you guys and saying, this is what I'm going to need in our company. Right. What do you have, or what type of, so you're counseling them too. You're consulting with them.
Right.
We need people that can fill the skill positions. I don't know what they are yet. Do you have students that can fill the gaps? Sure. Right.
And we have students added to our program continuously.
Okay.
Like all through the year, we have students added to our program. So we are always placing students. But we place the largest amount heading into a school year. So in the spring and summer heading into the fall, but also we will get a new batch of students who will start working the 1st of January.
Just as a fresh start, like it's just natural through the school year.
Well, or they didn't have work-based learning for the fall semester.
Okay.
And they're starting it in January.
Okay.
So the bulk of our students do full year. They do August through May. And then depending on, what they're doing, they may continue to work through the summer for that same employer, before they start, or even a 2-year if they've started as a junior. But then we do have some students that will just do it for a semester.
Just experiment with it because they don't really know.
Right.
Well, or they finally have room in their schedule.
It's what room they have in their schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, though, if an employer had very specific needs and it was in our scheduling process, we sometimes will reach out to students who they haven't said, I want to do work-based learning, but we say to them,
are you interested?
Are you interested? Yeah. This is an opportunity. And a lot of times they'll say, well, yeah, I would do that.
Right.
And they talk to their counselor and adjust their schedule. So, when we have a head start, it definitely allows us to.
You have the need, and so then you can approach the right fit.
Make a better match.
Right, because you know who the candidates are, even if they're not in the program.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope all of you businesses out there are listening to what you need to do next and your business strategy, because we've talked to you all season and you need some help in some areas. So this may be an option for your business. Thank you for joining us.